It's going to be next Monday that we get out at 1:30 for the early dismiss for parent-teacher conferences. Right. Okay. What we're going to be doing is ultimately we're going to be trying to create these 3D objects, and some of them are going to require a little bit more work than the other one. But I think the first thing that we need to do is if we could do this one of two ways. If you already have the dimensions written down and you don't want to go over the dimensions right now, y'all can just say, Mr. Broadway, I got it. We don't got to worry about it. But if you want me to write the dimensions of each one of these blocks on the board, I can do that for you guys too. But I don't know what they are, so y'all are going to have to tell me what they are. Each one of these has a depth, a width, and a height. So depth normally goes this way. That's a highlighter. Sorry, give me a second. Depth normally goes back like this. So this is going to be our depth. The width normally goes this way. So I'm going to call that the width. And the height hopefully makes sense to you guys. That goes up. Okay, so what is the depth of this object? 2 inches? 2 centimeters. I need these in inches. Did anybody do these in inches? How many inches? Because they should be fractions. Okay, 1 1/4. You okay with that? All right. How about the height? Height is the same. That makes sense. So 1 1/4. And remember, inches is the two little tick marks at the end. If you want to put one tick mark, that is feet. Is that all we need? 2.5 for the width. Is this all we need? Okay, so if you don't find the radius to the circle, you won't be able to make the circle. So if we're 3D modeling this, we need the radius of that circle. So did anybody actually find the diameter or the radius of the circle? From here to here? Yeah, isn't it doesn't this shape fit into this shape? It does not at all. Okay, but okay, so the diameter is 1.5 inches, and this one is 1.5 inches, right? Was this 1.5 inches as well? Okay, yeah, it's not gonna fit perfectly in real life, but for our extent, when we're 3D modeling these, we're gonna say that the diameter is, I'm gonna put D equals 1.5. I can't fit that in. I'm gonna try to come up with a way to fit this in without it like looking like the width of the object. So, how about this? Diameter 1.5 inches. If you see me write a circle and a line through it, that is the universal notation for a diameter. That does not mean the number 0. You will never see a number 0 written like that in front of an actual number that makes sense. Did anybody get the radius of this guy? Because this should be a square, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. But did anybody get this radius? Negative? Okay, can you give it to me in centimeters? That'll be okay. It's 1.5 centimeters. So if we want to change centimeters to inches, here's what we're going to have to do. We have 1.5 centimeters, and we're going to set up a conversion factor. I know that there is a relationship between centimeters and inches. I just don't remember what that is off the top of my head. We could Google it. 1 inch is how many centimeters? Does anybody know off the top of their head? 2.54. You are completely correct. Very good. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. So to get this in inches, take your 1.5 and divide it by 2.54, and it gives you a radius in inches. What's that come out to be? Anybody got a calculator? I got one here. Okay. 0.59. Yeah, everybody's Chromebook is a calculator. 0.59, we all agree? So I'm going to write here R 0.59 inches. Okay. Now, the cylinder, we need the height And other than that, we also need the diameter. So what was the height? 2.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put 2.5 inches. Diameter? Diameter 1 inch. Okay, now to the regular guys. These aren't so bad. This has a depth, width, and height. What was the depth? This was the thin boy. Thin boy. This is the long one. Half an inch. Okay, so I'm going to just put 0.5 inches. Uh-oh. Oh, I said depth, didn't I? Dirt. I was like depth, right's the wrong one. 0.5 inches. 1.5 inches. Okay, height. Height, 3.5. So I'm going to put in here 3.5 inches. Okay, what about the next one, the smaller guy? Okay, so our width is 1.5, our depth is 0.5, and our height was 2.5 inches. Okay, and I think I have, is there one more shape or is there more than one? Okay, well these are the only ones that they're going to have us do, so I'm writing these dimensions out because we're going to need to do these in the assignment that's coming up. Now this guy, yeah, like if you did your dimensions and it came out like 1.4, or if you did like instead of getting 1.5 and you got 1 and uh 3/8, it'll be okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. If you did yours in inches, that's fine. I'm doing mine in inches too. If you did yours in centimeters, that's okay. I'll show you guys, if I can remember, how to switch it over to centimeters in Onshape, but that requires me remembering how to do that. So, what about these? Depth, 1 inch. Okay. Width and height, 2 inches. Okay, so these shapes are going to come in handy to us later because one of our things that we're going to do is we're going to 3D model these shapes. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to show you guys a little bit of how to create um, three-dimensional shapes that are not just like simple things, because we have to start developing our 3D modeling skills. And I taught you guys how to extrude, and now I'm going to teach you guys how to use extrusions to make a more complicated shape. So let's go back into Onshape, and we're going to go to your IED practice folder. So you should have your folder up here. Click on IED practice. If you don't have one of those, you need to make one. This is going to start filling up real quick, by the way, because I've got 2 IED classes. So I end up doing the same thing for both, or sometimes a little bit different depending on the questions they ask. So I'm going to create a new document, and we're going to call this one Extrusion Practice. And I'm going to hit OK. Extrusion Practice. If you misspell extrusion, it'll be okay. Extrusion. Extrusion. Okay. It's go time. Got it right. I'm going to click on this, and we're going to make a simple shape, and then we're going to do something to the sketch on the shape. Yesterday, we just made a bunch of sketches and made individual little shapes, but one of the most powerful things about 3D modeling is you can create a shape, and then you can modify that shape depending on what you want to do. So I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm going to click Sketch, and then make sure that you actually click on one of the planes. I'm going to click on the top. Okay, so you should get a sketch plane that looks like this. So you go sketch, top view, and we're going to start making a sketch. I'm going to make a rectangle that is 3 by 3. So I'm going to drag it out, and then I'm going to type in 3, enter, 3, enter. And that's going to give me a square that is 3 by 3. If it goes off your screen like this, the easiest way I've found to be able to get back to it is to zoom out, move your mouse over to it, and zoom back in, and that'll actually get you on the spot. Okay, where you move your mouse is the center of where you zoom into. So if your mouse is over in the corner, you're going to zoom into the corner, and it's not really going to help you. So where your mouse is where you zoom in, and I would definitely take advantage of that. That's an easy way to move around. Yes, sir. Do you have your square? Okay, click and drag. Okay, now click again. 3, enter. Okay, you actually double clicked. So abort mission. So you're going to go click, click. You see how I'm not, yeah, you can click and then 3, enter, 3, enter. Anybody else? Everybody okay? We got a 3x3 square? Okay, we're going to make a 3D shape out of this. So hit finish sketch, green check mark. Go to extrude, and I'm going to go to the isometric view. Hit extrude, and then click on the shape. I'm going to make it 3, so I'm going to have a perfect cube, just like last time. Although this is not our first cube. This is now our second cube. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to hit the green check mark to show that I'm happy with it. Okay? So you're right, it kind of looks a little bit off, doesn't it? And that's because it's isometric, so it's not exactly how you would see it in real life. So remember, isometric has parallel lines all the way around, but this is what a cube would look like in an isometric view, which is a little bit different from what we see in real life. It's totally true. Okay, is everybody good with this? All right. Now, there are one of two ways that we could actually make modifications. Actually, there's a ton, but using extrusions, there's one of two ways that we can make modifications to this cube. We can either add to this cube by extruding some more stuff onto it, or we could subtract away by cutting into it. So if we make a sketch and we cut into it, we would be able to make a shape that way. Okay, let's try adding first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the sketch button again, but instead of clicking on one of these planes, I'm actually going to click on the cube itself. So notice that it's got 6 sides. I can click on any one of these 6 sides, and it'll make a sketch on that surface. So I'm going to click Sketch 2, and then I'm going to click the top of the cube. And it's going to make a sketch plane that shows up on that surface. It makes a lot more sense to me to have my sketch plane on top. So I'm going to hit the top button to get my top view going. If you need to zoom out and then zoom back in to get it back into place, that's probably easier to do on a Chromebook than to pan back and forth. So try to get it to where your cube is right at the top like this. Okay. Y'all slow me down if I'm going too fast. And we can put any kind of sketch that we want to on the top. I'm not going to put another square up there. I'm going to make my shape a little bit more complicated. I'm going to use the line command, and I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to pick 3 corners, and I'm going to connect them. Make sure that they snap into place. So like, see how it's like, I'm a line, I'm just sitting here, I'm a line, do, 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 snap. And then it snaps into place right there, and you get like a yellow square. That means that you're going to attach it to this vertice, which is really useful. Okay, and then when you click, you can move this line down, and then snaps into place. And then I'm going to move across diagonally this way until it snaps into place. When you do that, you'll have 3 lines like this. If it looks good, hit the green check mark and then go back to your isometric view, which I think is clicking on this. I always go backwards. There we go. Okay. Now, when I click extrude, it's not going to extrude a square. When I click extrude, it's going to have that shape that I could actually extrude from, and I can make a shape on top of it. So I can add to this shape that I already created previously. This is called additive modeling, and it's additive because we're adding shapes to it. Okay, this isn't meant to be like super rocket science. I'm going to make the extrusion, I don't know, let's make it too high. 2 units high. So I'm going to hit that, and then I'm going to hit the green check mark. And so you can see that your model seamlessly fuses the two together. So we have a cube on the bottom, and then we have a triangle on top. This is considered one object, okay? This isn't 2 different parts that are put together. The 3D modeling software says this is one object together, okay? If it didn't work, if there's something wrong, what you can do is you can go back into the sketch and you can edit the sketch. So if you look over on the left side of the screen, See how it says origin, top, front, right, and then down here it has the sketches. If you move your mouse over those sketches, it shows you what you did to get this shape. So this program keeps a current history of everything that we've been doing for the whole time. So if you don't like what you did, just go back and change the sketch. So for sketch 2, I can right click, which is 2 fingers for you guys. So if you put 2 fingers on it, 2 finger tap, and then you hit edit, you can go back in and you can change a sketch. And that's useful, especially if it's not working the way you wanted it to work. Okay. Now, I will go ahead and warn you guys. If you already did something to the sketch and then you modify the sketch, everything that you did to the sketch might not work. Like, for example, we built a triangle on top, right? So if I click on this line and I'm like, I don't want this line, and I hit delete, then, well, whenever I finish it, and I go back to my view, my triangle is now no longer a triangle. It basically said, so you just want to extrude the cube up, right? And that's because I deleted that line in the middle, and now all of that information is gone. So from there, Onshape just kind of guessed as to what I wanted it to do. Okay, so I'm going to hit undo, Control Z, so I can get back to my original shape. Okay, is everybody okay? Does anybody have any questions? Are we good so far? Okay, let's do the same thing. And do you want to, yeah, let's go ahead and just use the same shape. So let's say that I want to create a shape and I want to drill a hole inside this shape. So what I would do is I'll click Sketch, and then I'll click on the right side of the shape, which is going to be this side. Okay, I think that says that's the right view. So I'm going to click on the right view, and it'll give us a sketch over here. Now, if I click top view this time, I'm not going to get what I want. I need to move the camera to where I can see where I'm sketching. So I'm not going to click top this time. This time I'm going to click right. I'm going to go to the right view. Okay. And from there, we're going to drill a hole. So use the circle command. It doesn't matter how big you make this hole. It bother me either way. But I do want to make it in the middle. So here's what we're going to do. As you notice, your mouse just kind of moves around everywhere. But if you move slowly, it'll eventually reach the halfway point on the shape itself. So somewhere along this halfway point where it kind of snaps into place, make a circle by just clicking and then click again. You don't have to input a specific diameter. If you really must, just make it 1 inch. Okay, so we now have a 1 inch diameter hole, and then click the green check mark to finish it, and you should see this little sketch of a circle on the right side of your shape. If I go back to the front view of the object, I can then use the extrude button, and I'll use the extrude button to create a hole. But if I hit extrude and then I click here, the very first thing it's going to do is it's going to default to extrude outwards. Okay, so if you want it to extrude or cut inwards, what you need to do is up here at this tab where it says add, you need to click remove instead of add. Now, there are 2 different ways to do this, and you'll see me do it both ways. One is you can type in the number for how far you want it to go, but if you're just drilling a hole and that hole goes all the way through, what I tend to prefer to do instead is just ignore the numbers, grab this arrow, and just drag it out all the way. Doesn't matter how far you drag it, as long as you pass through the entire object. And you can see whether or not you pass through the entire object or not, because you'll see the hole go through the other side. So if it looks good, hit the green check mark. And when you look around at the shape, you can see that it drilled a hole through the middle of the shape itself. If your circle went through the cube and this, it's going to drill a hole through that as well too. So that kind of made a complicated shape that we can make just by using some simple extrusion commands. Okay? Sure, I would be happy to. So from the circle, okay, so I'm gonna go back to the circle, and here's my shape. Let me see if I can go back to the front view, like that, right? So I made my circle, and I'm going to click Extrude. Then I'm going to go to the circle, and it's going to jut out. Okay. There's a tab up there that says Remove. I want to click that tab, and it's going to make it go the other direction. And then I click this arrow and drag it out, and it'll cut a hole through the center of it. Then I hit the green check mark, and I should have a hole that goes through it. And remember, this is web-based, so you're going to have to be a little bit patient. So Autodesk Inventor, whenever you do that, like you push it straight through, and as long as your computer's powerful enough, it's like, yeah, okay, and it'll make it pretty quick. Our laptops are pretty quick if we could actually use them. Sorry. But we'll just have to deal with the web-based one for now. So if you're trying to click that arrow and drag it out, it may take a little bit of time to do its thing. But what's up? Are you cutting? Make sure you click on remove up here. If you click on remove, it should, there you go. Now you got a hole in the middle of it. Yeah. You got to tell it whether or not it's additive or subtractive. It defaults to additive. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Hit Control Z for me so I can see where your circle is. I see your circle. Hit extrude. No, click extrude first. Now click on the circle. Click on the outer circle. Yep. Now click remove. And now put in a distance. Just go like 4 or 5, something. Yeah. And then hit OK. There you go. Problem solved. The order that you guys do this in is important. So before you start messing around with how far you want it to go in or out, my recommendation is to always pick add or remove first, and then decide how far you actually want it to be added or removed. Because for some reason, if you do it the other way around, sometimes it gets confused and it comes up with errors or won't work at all. So I would pick add or remove first, and then I would dictate how far that actually goes backwards or forwards. Okie dokie? Does that make sense to y'all? We are on advisory schedule today. Yeah, we are on advisory schedule today. All right. Now, this part doesn't have a name to it. If you look down in the bottom left tab, it says Part Studio 1. So you can right click on this part down here that says Part Studio 1, and you can click rename. So I'm going to call this Cube Boy, and you can call it whatever you want to. Cube thing. Don't just call it a cube because it's totally not a cube. Okay? And you can make another part on this document, which is what I want us to do. Ideally, if you're making a part or if you're making an object, that object should be a whole lot of parts put together, and all of those parts should be in the same document. It is much, much better for us to have them in the same document than it is to load up different files, because then if somebody changes the file, then it's going to change your, it's terrible. So we're going to make a new file. So we're going to click the plus sign, and then I need you to click Create Part Studio. And when you create a Part Studio, it'll show a brand new object design where we can create a new object in it. Okay. Are we having trouble with the circle? Well, what's your question? Okay, that wasn't really a question, but go ahead. Right? How can I help? Oh, right, right. So did you so create the circle first? You're there. Click on the circle and drag it out. No, sir. Click on that. Now click on. Yep. Now click on the center. Okay, you just unclicked circle. So now click on the circle and then drag it. Now click. Finish sketch. Okay. Extrude. You need to click on the outside of the circle. You need to click on the actual outside of the circle. Okay, no, okay, so A, extra clicking solves nothing. These programs are very click sensitive, so if you're like clicking all over the place, you're going to change about 5 different settings, and I don't know which one you did. So you click extrude. Notice how that was just one tap, right? Okay, now see this sketch doesn't actually show up, which means that you didn't make this on the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the sketch here, and we're going to modify it. So we're going to go in, we're going to click Edit Sketch, and the sketch looks like it shows up. And then we're going to hit Extrude. We're going to click on that surface, and then we're going to click, looks like it's only doing adding, which is strange. Do you have this? Oh, I know what it was. Your sketch doesn't fit. There's actually a little bit of part over there on the other side that's not on the square. So you can't make an extrusion on something that's not physically there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a different part. So I want us to make a cylinder this time. So I'm going to click on Sketch. I'm going to click on the top view, and then I'm going to go to the top. Yeah, you're going to need to make sure that you're in a new document for that. Now wait a minute. Do not go back into the Onshape main screen and make a new file. What you need to is there's a little plus sign down here, and it says import or insert a new element. So you're going to go down to this bottom spot, and you're going to hit Create Part Studio. Okay, you do not want to go back into Onshape and create a new file, because what we're going to do is we're going to take these two parts and we're going to assemble them together. But if you have them as two different files, you're getting ready to make your life a lot more difficult than you want it to be. Okay, so just go down here to the left side, hit Create Part Studio, and you should have a new file screen put up. That way all of these parts are going to be in the same file. You don't have to go hunting for them, which, trust me, you don't want to do. Okay, so I'm going to call this one, I'm going to hit Rename. Let's call it Cylinder Boy. So I've got Cube Boy and I've got Cylinder Boy. And I'm going to go to the top view. I'm going to click the circle command, and then I'm going to make a circle. Let's make it have a diameter of 1.25 inches. So I'm going to make the circle. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to type 1.25 and hit enter. And that will mandate that this is 1.25 in diameter. Okay, when I see that I'm happy with that, I'm going to click the green check mark, and I'm going to hit extrude. So I'm going to use the extrude button, and I'm going to extrude it out this way. Let's make it go 2 inches. So I'm going to click 2 there and hit enter. So you should now have a cylinder that goes out 2 inches. So we made a sketch, we extruded the sketch. Okay, we made a sketch, we extruded the sketch. 1.25, 1 1/4. So 1 1/4 for the cylinder. Okay, 1 1/4. Okay, so now we have a cube, kind of, that looks like this. And we have a assembly, or sorry, we have a cylinder that looks like this. I was just clicking on the wrong file. So cube and cylinder. We can take both of these parts and we can match them together by creating what we call an assembly. So if you notice how there's a thing called assembly 1 already made for you, and this always shows up no matter which document you create, there will automatically be an assembly part to it. You can take all your parts and you can put them together. So I'm going to get rid of that. Click on Assembly 1 down here, and the first thing that we have to do is notice how like everything up here is different. So like if you're getting an assembly, you're going to find out that every command up here is completely different. This isn't where you make stuff. This is where you put stuff together. So the stuff's already made. You're just going to assemble it. That's why they call it an assembly. So click the Insert button, and your parts should automatically show up here. So you should have Cube Boy and Cylinder Boy already put up right here. So I'm going to click Insert, and I'm going to insert Cube Boy, and I can like move it around and I'm just going to place it by single clicking like that. Okay. I can do the exact same thing to Cylinder Boy. So I can click on Cylinder Boy and move him out here, and I can put him anywhere I want to, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the green check mark because I'm happy with that. Now I can put these things together using these different commands up here. Okay, so what happens whenever you actually try to put these together, and whenever it comes to Onshape, you may have to play around a little bit with which specific command will attach it the way that you want it to. So since I'm just wanting to put these things together and it doesn't really matter to me, I'm going to use the Planar Mate tool. So I'm going to click on this one. It looks like it's got an up, down, left, and right arrow. So if I click Planar Mate, and I look over at the different shapes, what happens is you get these like little connection points. So if I click on, or don't click on anything, if I just move my mouse over the triangle, I get a lot of little points here. So like there's 3 right here, there's 1 in the smack dab middle, and then there's 2, and then there's 1. Okay, same thing on this one. Did you actually click on Planar Mate? You clicked on Planar Mate, and then there's nothing?
Oh, there it goes.
Hey, there it is. Yeah. So what you do is the place where you want them to connect together is, let's say I want to connect it to the top part of this triangle. So I'm going to click on the middle part of this triangle, and then I'm going to move my mouse down to the middle part of this cylinder, and when I click the two together, they will mate. Okay, and mate means that they're actually connected to each other. But you see, that didn't work exactly how I wanted it to do. There is a little flip button down in the bottom left. Boop. You can flip it, and then they'll connect together. Okay, so if I click the green check mark, these two things are actually connected together now. But did that work exactly how I wanted it to? I kind of wanted the cylinder on top, right? So I'm going to hit Control Z and Control Z again so that I can get these back to, oops. Okay, there it goes. Yeah, so get Control Z so I can get back to where I wanted to. If you don't want one of these to move in particular, because what it did was the computer was like, you want these two things together? Okay, and it doesn't really care what orientation it put it together. It was just like, yeah, here you go, no problem. Okay, if you want it to like not do that, you're going to have to lock one of these two down. So since the object on the left is bigger, I'm going to lock that one down. So if you right click here, I cannot, I'm way across the room, I can't really see that, but there should be a button that says ground or lock down. Let's see here. Can I see it? Suppress, fix. Um, let's try fix. Yeah. In Inventor, it's called ground. In Onshape, it might be called fix. That makes it a fixed position. We'll try that. That seems reasonable. It did not work. It's not gonna move. Like you're gonna have to mate the two together. Like if you fix it, it's not going to move. I don't think. Yeah, you got to right click two mouse buttons. You were in the mate command. There you go. Yeah, you have to make sure that you're not actually in a command before you right click. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to click planar mate, and I'm going to try to click on the center here and the center here, and I'm going to hope that it works. Boop. Flip. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so yeah, if we use the fix command, then the fix command will make it to where that part that we had, that part's going to stay fixed. So everything we attach to it is going to, you know, work around it, not the other way around. And that will save you a lot of sanity whenever you're making these assemblies. And we'll go over some more of these later. I just wanted to kind of show you guys that you can take different parts and you can assemble them together. In what fashion did it not work for you? Let's see. Did you hit the flip button? Hit the flip button for me. That's rotate. Hit the flip button. It looks like it's 2 arrows. There you go. That works. Hit the green check mark to make sure that you are happy with it. Y'all make sure that you hit the green check mark afterward to see that it is okay. Everybody good? Anybody have questions? Yep. What's up? Okay, so you need to go to, okay, so the problem is you created both of those on the same part, you will not be able to assemble them together. So in order to create them on the same part, you have to go down here to the bottom left, you have to hit create part, create part studio, make your cylinder in that new space right there. You can't mesh together two things that you made on the same object. It considers a file, a part studio, an object. So if you tried to move that around, it moves around the entire thing. So ideally speaking, I know what we did the first day. We made a whole bunch of different sketches and put them in one spot. But ideally, you only want one shape per file, and then you take those different shapes and you put them together, or else things are going to get really interesting really quickly. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is those shapes that you guys made in the activity that we did before, where we were isometric sketching, we are going to need to make these in Onshape. So what we're going to need to do is create a file, and I think you guys want to make this a new one. So in this top left corner, click on the Onshape button, and that'll take you back to the main screen. Okay. Um, do you want to keep this in practice or do you want to make it a new folder? Keep it in practice? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit create a document and we're going to call this building blocks because these are building blocks. And I'm going to call this building block second. Since we're in second period. All right, now the first thing that we're going to need to do is I'm going to make a whole bunch of different parts, and I'm not actually going to make them yet. I'm just going to name them. So we needed to make this many different shapes. So what do we want to call this one up here? Arch? Arch is good? Okay, let's call that one Arch. So the first one where it says Part Studio 1, we're going to rename it, and we're going to call this Arch. Okay, and then I'm going to make a new part. So hit the plus sign, new part studio. Another little tab will come up. I'm going to name that one a different one. Now notice we can't call these blocks. I can't call this like block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. These are going to have different names. So what about this guy? What do we want to call it? Semicircle or half circle? Either one of those is perfectly fine. Semicircle or half circle will work just fine. That is not the one that yeah, it is. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit rename, and I'm going to call that one semicircle. Okay, it's assuming that I can spell. Then I'm going to click down that bottom left, I'm going to make another part, new part studio. So we're just going to go ahead and get the foundation for all these out first, and then we're going to put them in. So what do we got here? I'm guessing y'all probably want to call that one cylinder. We're not calling it cube, Chief. That's not how it's going to work. Let's call it cylinder. You could have called it can, and that would be okay too. Cylinder. I always have a hard time spelling cylinder. So plus new part. What do y'all want to call the next one? This guy. Long what? Long box? Long blocks. Long block. All right. Rename. Long block. Okay. Plus sign. Part studio. What are we going to call the next one? What are we going to call this one? But this one is just as short as this one, though. Prism? Skinny block? Why don't we, I mean, we could. Yeah. You can't rename it. You're going to have to right click, so 2 fingers. Not twice, just once. Boop. Rename. Did it come up? Okay. What'd y'all decide? Short block? Oh boy. Okay. But the other one's just as short. Double. Oh my gosh. So what are we calling this one? Short block and fat block? Okay, so like those names are subjective. I thought we talked about this with the decision matrix, but I guess we're going with it. So right click and I'm going to hit rename, and I'm going to call the last one fat block. Like, what's going on? Yeah, like, what are all these file names? I don't even understand. That's okay. Don't worry, the file names get even weirder. You'll love it whenever you get to the file name called My Manager Hates Me. That's a good one. Um, the question, yeah. Yeah, okay. Don't worry about it. Just go through making all these. We'll go through it later. No big deal. Just create a new part and make all of those different files for those shapes. Let's see, arch, semicircle, cylinder, long block, short block, fat block. So that's 6, right? And I have 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I want you guys in every single one of these to create a 3D model of those blocks. Okay? Sure. We do not have time for that all the way today. How much time do we have left today? How many? We have 3 minutes today. Okay, so then that's what we're aiming for to do tomorrow. Then, if we have 3 minutes left, then that's what we're aiming for to do tomorrow. So when we come in here, we're going to be making 3D designs of those 6 blocks, and then if we have 3 minutes left, charge your laptop or shut down your laptops. Make sure that we're ready to go, and I think we're good.